All right, today's the time and place set for an original hearing for SKYLER FOLLIS, offender number 257565. Is that you, sir?
Yes, it is.
Did you receive at least 7 days prior notice of today's hearing and a disclosure packet that you've been able to review?
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll be taking testimony from you. Do you swear or affirm the statement you provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Joel Robison. I'm a hearing officer. I work for the board. I'll be conducting your hearing today. We do have the victim of record present. She'll be making a statement today. Cassidy, thank you for being here. I'll go through the hearing as I normally would, and then I'll provide you time to make whatever statement you would like.
All right, thank you so much.
Mr. Follis, you were tentatively scheduled for an original hearing back in May of 2023. The hearing was continued to today with the expectation that you complete substance use treatment, MRT, and comply with your case action plan. So we'll go over whatever progress you've made in those areas. Before we do that, I need to go over your commitment offenses with you. Your first case is case 221-701-514, aggravated assault, third-degree felony. And then the next case is 221-701-547, violation of a protective order, third-degree felony, retaliation against a witness, victim, or informant, third-degree felony. That case was run consecutive to your first conviction. You have a maximum 15-year sentence, puts you at August 28th of 2037. You have a 29-month guideline date, January 28th of 2025. The board will take all of those timeframes into consideration. Your guideline date is simply that, a guideline. The board can deviate from that however they deem appropriate based off of the circumstances. In regards to that first case, it occurred August 20th of 2022. Rather than me read through the facts of the offense, I have that information in front of me. The information that was in the pre-sentence investigation outlines all of the facts of the offense. But if you could, in your own words, just tell me what happened that day, what you're responsible for.
All right. So me and my wife were going through some marital problems at the time, and I left to a friend's house, and we got drunk and high, and ended up coming home later that night, and ended up getting into a argument with my wife at the time. And during the process, I ended up at one point grabbing her by the throat and throwing her all against the bed, and also pulling out a gun and threatening suicide for myself, and waving the gun around and pointing it at her, and just being pretty oblivious to where I was pointing the gun. And then later in that day, she ended up leaving the house for a little bit and calling the police, and came and arrested me.
And the report indicates that you had the a handgun and also a rifle. And then while you were angry and waving around, you were making threatening comments. You also prevented her from leaving. Is that all accurate?
No, she was able to leave. That's how she ended up calling the police. She went outside and called them. And but yes, the guns and the threatening comments is accurate.
Had you been involved in anything like this previous?
No.
Had you ever been violent or assaultive towards her?
Yeah, I've been violent before in the past, drinking.
Are you ever violent when you're not drinking?
No.
And how much had you been drinking that night leading up to this?
I couldn't tell you, but it was a lot. It was probably around a fifth of alcohol.
And was that normal for you at that time to be drinking that much?
Yeah. Yeah, I was drinking almost every day at that point in time.
Any other substance use? Were you using drugs?
Yes, I was smoking marijuana, and also I was taking Adderall for ADHD, and I was smoking methamphetamine a little bit.
And then your next case was the violation of a protective order or retaliation against a witness or victim. The information is that after your arrest on this case, that you had called the victim numerous times.
Yeah,
Is that-
I think it was a total of 12 times.
Okay. And then what was your goal of making those calls, contacting her?
At the time, I was more along the lines like trying to apologize, I guess, trying to just make contact and apologize about the way I acted and everything, but it wasn't good.
And was one of your goals or motivations to attempt to get her to drop the charges?
Yes.
If you could just briefly go over, aside from you went over the alcohol use and some of the drugs that you were using, but just generally what your life was like during the time frame of these cases.
So I would be going to work every day almost, and then I would just come home usually and either just spend time with my wife and my son at the time, or try to go fishing or whatever. But I was working a lot during that time period. And then, but when I got home, I was drinking almost every night after work.
What did you do for work?
I had my own business doing finished carpentry.
And as you mentioned, you had some prior incidents of domestic violence. You had a case in 2015 and 2017. Was that the same victim on those cases?
So in 2015, it was with currently my ex-wife, and we got into a fight, and she wouldn't leave the premises I was at, and so I ended up pushing her outside. And then in 2017, it was with my father, and we got into an argument, and I ended up punching his car windshield and cracking it.
Now, at the start of the hearing, I laid out the expectations that the board had for today's hearing. If you could go over any classes or programming that you've completed.
So I completed the 11-month BRT drug and substance abuse program, and I completed anger management, then also MRT, Inside Out Dad, and the relationships class.
Was there anything that stands out that you benefited from or that you think you learned the most from in those classes?
Yeah, so it was a lot of the classes was just to change your thought process, because if you can change your thoughts, you change your actions. If you can change your actions, you can change, your life basically. And just applying that to everything have been the best. And also with all the relationship classes that I took and everything, it helped me a lot in just finding out ways to have better and healthier relationships too. So
You haven't had any disciplinary violations. You did have one. It was back in March of 2023. It was for unauthorized use of a tool, I think. Do you remember the circumstances of that?
yeah, so it was when I was at the state prison, and there was a blockage in the sewer lines, and they went and checked it out, and there was plastic in the lines, and the lines were connected to two different cells. So all 4 inmates got wrote up for flushing plastic down the drain or down the toilet.
Okay. Since you've been at the Beaver County Jail, not a management problem. The institutional progress report is positive. You've outlined the classes that you've completed. In preparation for today's hearing, you submitted a board packet which outlined a variety of information for the board's consideration, one of which was your release plans. So the board has that to factor into their decision. As mentioned, we do have the victim of record present. Cassidy, once again, thank you for being here. And what information would you like the board to consider?
Thank you again for having me. I wrote up kind of like an impact statement to convey like the profound impact that my ex-husband's actions have had on my life and the continued challenges I face too. So the statement will outline the financial, emotional, and physical tolls of his behavior that's been inflicted on my son and I, and as well as ongoing danger and trauma we've endured. So housing, I shouldered all the financial responsibilities for the house, property, and vehicles, including negative equity, which I just paid off last week through my employer who helped me with those payments. And I just took it out of my paycheck in the last 2 years. It's been paying. He paid for it and I paid it back, and which negatively impacted my credit almost 200 points for the truck, the house, and everything. My townhome, despite owning it solely in my name and making the mortgage payments, I had to obtain court approval to sell it. Additionally, I financed $5,600 for new windows, $2,000 for a new water heater, $4,700 for meth mitigation for the entire home, which I'm still paying off all of these. And any equity that was in the townhome was diminished due to meth use, resulting in a $50,000 loss for myself. For my son, this has had the biggest impact. So not only has my ex-husband, Mr. Follis, contributed not a cent towards child support, but for Crew, the abuse he witnessed at 3 years old has deeply affected his sense of safety and emotional well-being. He's been in therapy since October 2022 to process the trauma, including mimicking threatening behaviors that kids should never be exposed to. And this experience took away his innocence and security he deserved at such a young age, which no child should have to endure. And this is the worst of the impact for him, and then financially, and then of course emotionally. But I had to change my phone number in 2022 of December because Mr. Follis wouldn't release my phone number. So I just got a new phone number, but I paid for therapy for both me and my son, with, not help from him, and even after requesting assistance. But I paid over $4,800 for both of us, which I continue to pay for. The night he barricaded me in my room and wrapped a survival chainsaw around my neck and attempted to take my own life in my own room has left scars on my left wrist as I put my hand in the way so it wouldn't get my neck. And then later he continued to point a loaded AR-15 in front of our 3-year-old, saying he's going to kill me and how lucky I am that our son Crew was there because I would be dead and then he would just take his own life. And this has left me with nightmares, of course. I have complex PTSD, diagnosed anxiety, and sleepless nights, to say the least. And no child should put a gun to their parent's head, even jokingly, and threaten to kill them, and violent, aggressive behavior that he learned from him. And abuse from his family, had baseless allegations to DCFS multiple times, motivated by hate and deflection of the wrongdoings, compounded my emotional strain with their manipulation, gaslighting. And it became apparent as I distanced myself from them and went no contact for my healing and my son's. Possibility of his early parole leaves me in constant fear. I got the Board of Pardons letter in mid-December and my heart dropped. I didn't know what the letter was about yet, but back in fight or flight mode, scanning for threats and not being able to focus at work or feel safe in my own home. But my son's made significant progress in therapy thanks to consistent care funded by myself, and he has a stable and loving father figure who exemplifies kindness and patience. Mr. Follis's mom, my son's grandmother, has undermined this stability, telling my son that my partner is not his dad, creating confusion and distress. And my son's bonus dad has been a positive influence, teaching him love and respect without resorting to fear or violence-based discipline. For my left wrist, I have chronic pain and still have ongoing medical care. All last year, I was in physical therapy for it. I have a tattoo to cover up my scars, but restitution doesn't compensate for the physical and emotional scars I bear. He violated a protective order 16 times, sending over 60 messages under the guise of his own attorney. And his complete lack of accountability and manipulative behavior leaves me feeling unsafe, locked in fight or flight mode, also turning his family against me, victim blaming. And he showed no remorse for his actions at the 2023 in January hearing for the case. And given the severity of his actions, their lasting impact on my life and my son's well-being, and I implore the board to deny parole at this time. My son's safety, my safety, and our ability to heal depend on maintaining distance and ensuring he remains under strict supervision. And if the board does not see this and parole is granted in the years to come, I request the GPS monitor to ensure my safety, mandatory substance abuse counseling, no contact order still in place for both me and my son, restrict use of firearms or dangerous weapons, mandatory domestic violence education classes, comprehensive programming with Utah law to ensure any privileges through accountability and genuine charge. In writing this impact statement and reading, I have to relive horrific feelings, anxiety, and panic I had from that night. And I've tried so hard and done a really good job to heal from. Thank you for considering my statement and the immense ramifications of this crime on our lives. I trust the board will prioritize justice, safety, and the continued rehabilitation of all involved parties.
Well, thank you for being here today, for taking the time and effort to prepare such a detailed, impactful statement for the board's consideration. I'll make sure that they have that information for their review. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Follis, anything you would like to say in response to these statements that you just heard?
There's not really much to say to that. It's heartbreaking to me to hear that, and I just want to try to do better and be better, and I would love to help out any way I can financially, but I can't while I'm in here either. It's something was planning on doing anyways when I get out, is to help any way I can financially, but I can't do anything while I'm in here. But yeah, it's hard for me. I really don't have words to describe it. I'm devastated. I'm sad. It hurts me to hear what she had to say, and I hope one day, she can recover from this and that she won't see me as a threat anymore.
Yeah, it's understandable the fear that she has, and
Yeah.
she prioritized the concern she has for her son and what he had to go through at such an early age. I mean, some of the description of what occurred when you assaulted her in that matter, wrapped a chain around her neck and threatened to kill her. You remember doing that?
I don't remember the chain, no. But I do remember grabbing her by the throat and throwing her against the bed. But yeah, I'm like, the threats, I was saying all sorts of nasty things to her.
Well, and then pointing the AR at her and making threats. I mean,
Yeah.
That's doesn't, a third degree felony. The judge ran them consecutive to, I think, demonstrate the seriousness of the cases. But I mean, that type of behavior, and that's far more serious than what you would generally see in a third degree felony. I mean, that's extremely violent and concerning. I do hope that through the time that you've had incarcerated, through the classes and programming, that, however much time you end up serving, that this is the end of your criminal history, and that you move on to be a productive member of society, because if not, I mean, if you fall back to some of this same behavior, you pose a serious risk to those around you.
Yeah.
What I'll do moving forward is I will get all of this information over to 5 board members for their review. As a hearing officer, I don't make a decision in the matter. I'll make sure that they have all of the information that was included in your disclosure documents, all of these statements from today's hearing, and the board members will deliberate. They'll make a decision as to how to move forward. They will mail you a copy of the board order. Generally, it takes 2 to 3 weeks after the hearing to get that decision made. Within that board order, it'll outline everything that's expected moving forward. And that decision will also be posted on the board's website. Mr. Follis, anything else before I conclude the hearing?
No, I think that sums it up. I'm just hope she knows that I'm genuinely sorry, and I hope to move on from this and, like you said, be a productive member of society. And I'm trying everything in my power not to make these mistakes again, and learn as much as I can while I'm here, and just come out a new person and be who I'm supposed to be in a way. This is the longest time of sobriety I've had since I was a younger teen, and it's I'm just doing really good mentally and physically, and it just I feel like all that is behind me. It's just the main thing is just having to stay sober. I feel like is the biggest thing for me. So.
All right, I will pass those comments along. At this point, I will go ahead and conclude the hearing. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Cassidy, for being here. We will conclude the hearing.
Thank you for having me.